Hello, welcome to Sephra's Pop Culture Channel. Now, this is the first time I believe that I'm doing an actual video report on American Horror Story. If you've ever looked at my blog, sephrajerome.ca, you've seen that over the years I have opined about American Horror Story, especially Finn Whitrock. And then also, I did do a bit on Cody Fern when he was on Versace. I felt like he was someone to watch as well. And over the years, I've done little bits and pieces about these various episodes and seasons of American Horror Story. But now I have this new channel, so why don't I just babble on about it, right? So last week, today, I'm doing this on Wednesday, so tonight will be the second episode of season one, but it doesn't really matter because I don't know when you're watching this. So right now, I am discussing season nine, episode one. So American Horror Story premiered last week, and it seems to be focusing on, as we know from all the previews and stuff, that it's focusing on summer camps, slasher movies, sleepaway camp, Friday the 13th, Jason, Halloween, all that 80s slasher stuff. Seems to be taking place in 1984, I believe. It's called 1984. And so definitely, I just want to say right off the bat that the ages of the characters that we're following right now, at least as of the first episode, because we know American Horror Story can just kill everyone and start something fresh. so, so right now we have a bunch of kids, and they're probably in their early 20s, late teens. It's hard to say, and maybe they're supposed to be 16. I don't know, but they all look like they're 20s. And I myself was in my 20s in the 80s. I was in university and stuff. So everything they're doing is really resonating with me. The imagery, how it's shot, the clothing, the aerobics craze, the Olympics, all these things, the way they're wearing their hair and their spandex. And it's like, oh my God, I'm back in time. I remember all of this. I remember. So I feel like they're doing that really well. And I think maybe people who didn't live through the 80s as a teenager or older may not riff as hard on these things. I have seen some complaints already about the way they're doing this, and I just want to say I think so far they're doing a good job. Yeah, they might be off a year or two with something or another, but who cares? Like, this is fun. They got the 80s music, the friggin' sweatbands, and yeah, so we're good. We're good with all of that. Now, the show opened with a threesome. Woohoo! We love it when American Horror Story opens with something sexy because they often do. And so we start with a threesome, and in true horror movie trope, everyone's dead because they dared to have sex. So it opens. Oh, I should say there's a lot of spoilers. Like I'm doing this because there's spoilers. So like don't watch if you haven't seen it. So we open with some teenagers screwing around at the summer camp, and they all get slaughtered by Mr. Jingles. And this is apparent right away because he's jingling. And Mr. Jingles takes an ear from his victims. This is his particular fetish. He collects them on a string. And we learn later on in the episode that Mr. Jingles is a war vet, and he used to collect the ears from, the people he killed back then. And so this continues on. And then we also discover that Mr. Jingles, who had been responsible for that massacre in 1970, has suddenly escaped the psychiatric institution. For some reason, he picked that day. I'm not sure if there's like if it's the anniversary of the day he slaughtered back then, or what his motivation was, but it's just a coincidence. And so Mr. Jingles is on the loose again. And this is also being dealt with where we have it's the summer of the Night Stalker, which was a real life serial killer in California back in the 80s, and he's running loose too. And interestingly enough, as American Horror Story always has threads, that the Night Stalker was in hotel. So we met him there, and then Mr. Jingles is played by the actor who did Twisty the Clown in Freak Show, right? So we're already starting to get some branching off here. And one of the things I'm really finding interesting is we have well, first of all, it's a different cast than like some old, some new, and things are shifting. So we have Emma Roberts, who I just adore, Billy Lord, Cody Fern are kind of our major dudes, and then we have some other people too, wonderful actors, wonderful people. But I want to keep this short. So what I really like right now is Emma Roberts is usually plays like a selfish bitch who's horny all the time and stuff, but right now she's being portrayed as a virginal innocent, which is nice contrast to her usual stuff. And Billie Lourd, who is really growing as an actress, I feel everything she's in, she's doing so much better. She's being portrayed as the horny bitch role that Emma usually gets. And Billy often, Billy's roles are always very different, but she's usually the more innocent kind of person with a dark undertone because she's always in these crazy Ryan Murphy shows. Now, Emma Roberts and Billy Lord were in they were in Scream Queens. And for me, as a horror writer who loves comedy, I love horror comedy so much. I had high hopes for Scream Queens when it was first announced. The first season, I was like, eh, it felt like it wasn't living up to where it could go, and I felt that, another season or two would really help these girls grow into their roles, and they could do some really interesting and cool stuff. But instead, they had season two of Scream Queens, which was horrible, but I did watch it all. I can't remember why I didn't like it much, but obviously no one else did either because they canceled the show. So it's too bad because, we had all the Chantels, and so I have a little bit of that in the back of my head when I'm seeing Emma and Billy traipsing around at the summer camp as instructors and counselors and so on. Emma Roberts' character has a ring that the Night Stalker stole from her when he came into her apartment, and she hits him with a frying pan. Um, but he said he's coming back for her. He's coming back to find her. And he does. He In the first episode, he's already found her at the summer camp. And now, how these kids get to the summer camp? The it kind of well, first we have the opening of 1970. The children all the campers all get slaughtered. Then we go to 1984 modern time, where there's a aerobics class, and Cody Fern is the hot yoga aerobics instructor, and then we have like he's Xavier, then we have Montana, Ray, Chet, Brooke, and so on in the class, and so it turns out that they Xavier, who's Cody Fern, has been offered a position as a camp counselor at some camp that's opening, and he invites everyone else to come with him. And at first, Brooke wasn't going to go. Then she decides to go when she gets nearly killed by the Night Stalker. So they go up to this camp, and there we meet. Oh my God, we meet the camp counselor, Margaret Booth. And oh yeah, on the way up, there's the usual tropes we in all horror movies, the gas station, you're gonna die up there, and then hitting some hitchhiker, and they bring him along too. And so we meet Margaret Booth, who actually turns out to be one of the sole survivors of the massacre in 1970, and she shows that she's missing an ear. But she wanted to open this camp because she's really wealthy now, and she wants to build happy memories instead of the, sad mass murder memories of the camp. And so when we leave this episode, the camp opens tomorrow. So that would be tonight. All the kids will be coming for the camp, and meanwhile, all hell's already broken loose because the hitchhiker, Emma Roberts, saw him dead and hanging from a door and his ears missing. I can't remember if she knew about his ear missing or not, but the audience knows his ear was missing too. And she gets chased by Mr. Jingles, but none of the, of course, in true horror fashion. None of the other people saw her get chased, so they think she's nuts. Although there are some things happening, like why she would go answer a phone, ringing in a phone booth in the middle of the night near the end of the episode when she's already been nearly killed by Mr. Jingles, nearly killed by Night Stalker. It's creepy being in the woods anyways, and then now in a the phone booth down in the woods is ringing and she goes to answer, and of course it's, the Night Stalker who comes out to just as the episode ends. And so we'll see. I guess she's going to run and scream some more. So it's interesting, and a lot of the way it's shot is very 80s. They're using a lot of the fluorescence and garish colors from the time. The hair, the puffy hair, that the angles are very much 80s horror movie tropes. Going through the woods. The kind of like the killer point of view, looking at the camp and things like that, right? So it's all very well done, as usual. Hopefully, the story will actually hang together because you never know with the American Horror Story. I always find there's one or two threads because I know the last couple seasons they've been really focusing on just trying to keep to maybe one or two threads because some of the seasons in before that have so many threads, and then a lot of the stories didn't have a good resolution because there were too many threads to tie up in the amount of episodes they had, right? So it'll be interesting. Mr. Jingles and Cody Fern, and oh yeah, and then there was I didn't write down the name, I don't think. The counselor who comes in who has a really big appendage, as it were, which is also seems to be a theme in American Horror Story because if you remember back to Hotel, no, Freak Show. If you remember back to Freak Show, Dennis O'Hare's character had a unusually large appendage as well, and that was part of his thing as being a freak, was his ginormous penis, and so now we have a camp counselor who isn't Dennis O'Hare, with a very large penis that you can see through his tiny little 80s shorts. And having lived through the 80s, like I said earlier, I remember those shorts on all the men, and those were good times, Anyways, it'll be interesting to see what happens. So we got all our tropes. We got our summer camp. We got a couple of serial killers running loose. We got, all our friggin' tropes. We got the angry Olympic dude who didn't get in because he's on steroids or drugs or well, anyways, he didn't pass whatever drug test. We got the party guy who's, is bringing all the drugs for everyone. We got our virgin. We got our our slutty girl. We got, innocent people, naive people, people who've seen the world, all these things, right? So we've got all our tropes going on. We got our woods, we got our abandoned cabins, we got our ring and phone booths, we got, so let's see where we go. I'm excited to see where it all goes. And, there'll be more of the regulars popping in here and there. I'm trying not to look at any the IMBDs or anything because I like to be surprised. So we'll see. We'll see what happens tonight. Okay, so what do you think about so far what the premise of American Horror Story season 9 is all about? Are you happy so far? Are you already disappointed? Let me know in the comments, okay? And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. All right, so see you around. So I'll get back to you with the second episode as soon as I can. Bye.